Introversion in children. Not every child seeks the spotlight. Some feel most alive when they're quietly building with blocks, sketching their thoughts, or gazing out the window while imagining whole worlds. These children aren't withdrawn, they're introverted. And that matters deeply. Welcome to Seeds of Tomorrow, a space where mental health, education, and emotional resilience come together to build a brighter future. Introversion in children isn't a flaw to fix. It's a temperament rich with depth, sensitivity, and thoughtful creativity. Introverted kids often prefer smaller groups, meaningful conversations, and solo play. They may take longer to warm up in social settings or need extra time to process emotions. But here's the truth. Introverted children don't speak less because they have less to say. They speak less because they think more. In a world that often favors outgoing personalities, it's easy to overlook the quiet power of introversion. As parents and educators, understanding this trait is key to helping children feel safe, confident, and emotionally strong, without pushing them to be someone they're not. In Seeds of Tomorrow, we don't ask children to be louder. We help them grow stronger in the rhythm that feels most true to them. So, let's gently explore. How does introversion develop? What does it look like in daily life? And how can we nurture these thoughtful souls to flourish on their own terms? Part 1, the quiet spark, where introversion begins. Imagine a room filled with children's laughter, bright colors, and bouncing energy. In one corner, a child sits quietly, hands folded in their lap, watching the whirlwind of activity with thoughtful eyes. To some, this might seem unusual, but in truth, this quiet observer is processing more than we realize. Introversion isn't about being antisocial. It's about how a child recharges, connects, and responds to the world. Introverted children tend to turn inward first. They think before they speak, absorb before they act, and often find meaning in solitude rather than stimulation. They may thrive in one-on-one interactions, express their emotions through drawing, storytelling, or quiet gestures, and feel overwhelmed by loud, chaotic environments. Consider a child during a school recess. While many rush toward the playground, this child stays behind, arranging leaves and patterns along the sidewalk. A teacher might wonder, is something wrong? But in reality, that child is deeply engaged in nature, in creativity, in calm. These children often form rich inner worlds. They're the ones who notice small details, a friend's change in mood, the sound of birds between lessons, the way shadows fall across a page. Their minds are constantly working, just not loudly. Introversion is a temperamental trait, not a behavioral problem. Studies in developmental psychology show that introverted children tend to have more activity in brain regions tied to introspection and emotional sensitivity. This means they feel things deeply, process slowly, and often experience emotional intensity that isn't outwardly visible. Yet, in many cultures, there's a bias toward extroversion. Children who speak up, socialize freely, and take the lead. This can lead caregivers to unintentionally encourage introverted children to push themselves, socialize more, or even apologize for being quiet. But instead of trying to make them louder, we should strive to understand their quiet power, because that's where their strength truly lies. Parenting with empathy. Many introverted children fear disappointing others or being misunderstood. A simple phrase like, "Why are you so quiet?" can create self-doubt over time. Instead, try, I noticed you were quietly watching. What were you thinking about? It's okay to take your time. I love hearing your thoughts when you're ready. When children feel safe in their own rhythm, they become more open. Not louder, just more authentically themselves. So the question isn't, how do we make introverted children more outgoing, but rather how do we support them in building confidence while honoring their true nature? Part 2, Listening Between the Lines. Everyday strengths and struggles of introverted children. Introverted children often shine in subtle ways. They may not jump to answer questions or lead group games, but they notice things others miss. They understand feelings deeply, reflect before reacting, and often build strong emotional connections quietly, intentionally. Yet living in a world that rewards loudness and quick reactions can feel overwhelming to them. Places like classrooms, birthday parties, or even large family gatherings may trigger sensory fatigue or emotional withdrawal. It's not that they don't care, it's that they process differently. Imagine a child who's invited to speak in front of the class. They rehearse quietly at home, prepare every word, but freeze when everyone turns to look. The pressure isn't from not knowing, it's from feeling exposed. Later, they might write a beautiful journal entry about the experience. That's their language of self-expression. These children may prefer independent tasks or partner work over group projects, hesitate to speak until they feel safe with someone, find comfort in routines and familiar spaces, experience rich inner dialogue and emotional awareness. Introverted children feel deeply, process slowly, and connect meaningfully. But in a society that values instant responses and visible engagement, they may feel out of sync. That can lead to self-doubt or social anxiety if not properly supported. When caregivers recognize these patterns with empathy, they open the door to emotional growth, not by forcing change, but by affirming value. These kids may be slow to speak, but they often offer wisdom and insight beyond their years. To support them, we must listen not just to their words, but to their pauses, their preferences, and their patterns. Let them observe before participating. Offer emotional check-ins privately. Praise depth and creativity, not just visibility. Create calm zones at home or school where they can recharge. Encourage reflective outlets like journaling, art, or storytelling. We're then asking, how do I get my introverted child to speak up more? Let's ask, how can I create a world where their quiet strengths are seen, celebrated, and nurtured? Part 3, Empowering the Quiet Voice. How parents and educators can support introverted children. When caregivers embrace a child's introversion as a strength, not a shortcoming, something beautiful happens. The child begins to see themselves through a kinder lens. They feel safer to express, grow, and connect, not by being louder, but by being more fully themselves. Introverted children don't need to come out of their shell. They need to know their shell is a safe space, and that the outside world can meet them with respect. A teacher once noticed a child staying quiet during class discussions. Instead of forcing participation, she invited the child to share thoughts through drawing or private reflection journals. Over time, that child contributed thoughtful insights and even helped classmates see things differently. Actionable ways to nurture introverted children's emotional strength. Offer alternative forms of expression. Not every child thrives through verbal communication. Give space for writing, art, or private reflection. Avoid comparing them to extroverts. Phrases like, "Why aren't you more like your brother?" can damage self-worth. Encourage meaningful friendships, not many. Introverted children build deep, lasting bonds. Celebrate quality over quantity. Model calm emotional regulation. Introverted children often absorb the energy around them. Your gentleness creates emotional safety. Celebrate their unique strengths aloud. Tend so thoughtfully. I love how deeply you think about things. These affirmations build internal confidence. When parents and educators provide emotional space and permission to be quiet, introverted children stop hiding and start thriving. Part 4. Honoring every child's rhythm. The quiet confidence of introversion. Introverted children may not raise their hands first or speak the loudest in the room, but when their voices emerge, they often carry wisdom beyond their years. Their strength lies not in how many words they speak, but in the depth those words hold. They navigate life with sensitivity, purpose, and quiet reflection. And when we honor that rhythm, when we stop asking them to perform and start inviting them to grow, we see something powerful. A child who trusts their inner world enough to share it. One caregiver said, "I stopped asking my son why he wasn't more social and started asking what he enjoys most when he's alone." His stories opened up. His confidence bloomed, not because I changed him, but because I accepted him. When introverted children feel understood, they thrive, not by becoming extroverts, but by becoming more secure in their unique rhythm. They learn that silence isn't emptiness, it's contemplation. They learn that stillness isn't retreat, it's strength. Let's raise the children who observe before they speak, who listen before they lead, and who reflect before they act. Let's teach them that their quiet nature doesn't make them invisible, it makes them impactful. In a world that often celebrates volume, it's easy to overlook the quiet wonder of an introverted child. But behind that calm gaze and thoughtful pause is a heart full of creativity, empathy, and deep understanding. When we make room for silence, we hear what truly matters. When we honor stillness, we see who they truly are. Let us continue to nurture not just the bold voices, but the quiet ones. Those who speak through drawing, observation, and moments of meaningful connection. Because every child deserves to feel seen, safe, and strong, exactly as they are. Does your child carry quiet wisdom too? If this message speaks to your heart, subscribe and join us at Seeds of Tomorrow, a space where every child's voice matters, no matter how softly it speaks. Together, we're growing a world that values presence over performance, depth over noise, and compassion over comparison. Thank you for being part of our community. See you in the next video.